November 2019 was about delivering that course and really paying attention to what people were saying. And this was absolutely invaluable for how this piece of my business was going to elevate, essentially. And during this month, as I was delivering this content, as I was having conversations with people, I started to learn how to be very strict with what I was putting out there. And of course, my boundaries shifted a little bit. I worked out what was really working in my business, what was worth my time. I found that if I did lots of videos, that was really growing and people were starting to know about me. And that was really a great use of my time, essentially. Faffing behind the scenes was not the one. I knew that if I only had an hour to work per day, when my baby would definitely have that big sleep, I knew that if I put a video out there or a podcast, that would grow my business. So I think the biggest lesson from November 2019 was in, out. Is this bringing me closer to the vision, or is this taking me further away? Equally, with my online courses, the materials that I was sharing, is this supporting my client to get close to the result, or is this just like distracting them and taking them away? So I really became discerning. Instead, and I've spoken about this on the podcast before, about the tale of the terrible tattoo, because I knew my family were always overpackers. I decided to show my dad my terrible tattoo when he was in the middle of the packing of the car. And there's always that moment when you pack a car and you think that you're serving yourself by taking away so much stuff and being crammed. There becomes a time where it just becomes really claustrophobic. Nobody can move. There's no more enjoyment in there. And I think sometimes that can happen very much so with our businesses, is we're trying to do all of the things and actually nobody is getting what they need, least of all you. So that's what November 29 was all about. It was really about reassessing what's in, what's out, and almost chipping away, almost decluttering. So December 29 rolled around and I really went into hibernation mode again. I knew I had delivered a really fantastic offering as part of Speak Up, and I knew that it had gone well, and that was really lovely. And I built up some cash, and also I just wanted to take some time off. I wanted to reflect. And I think this has happened both times with having children, is that I was sort of full of hormones for quite a long time. And then 3 or 4 months in, I almost needed to slow down again to speed up and really take that time. So that's what I did during that December. I really enjoyed that time being at home and being snuggly with my baby and my then 4-year-old, and just took that time to hibernate, to recharge, and to just enjoy the moment. So the last part of this that I'm going to talk about in this section is January 2020. And I had no idea what this would bring. So we were all definitely figuring it out. But I knew in January 2020 that I wanted to do big things. And I was really in a process of reflection. So on one hand, of course, I had a baby and I had 2 children at home. And I understood all of that, and I didn't want to do anything that was going to take me away from home. But equally, I knew that I needed support. It's almost like sense, like when you know that you're going to have more washing, like you really need your washing machine to work. You really need to have reliable pieces of support in your life. And that's how I felt with my business. It wasn't a case of going, no, it's fine. I'll just do more. I'll just keep doing more. So I wasn't at the point of going, well, I know we're going to have more washing in the house, so I'll just start putting it all through a mangle and I'll do it all by hand. No, I wanted to work with that ease and flow. I wanted to see if I could take my business to the next level without necessarily working harder. I wanted to work smarter. So that really started to come up. And I knew that I needed support. And as I've often mentioned on the podcast before, I've had a lot of support in my business over the years. So I've been part of programs, I've bought many courses, I've had one-on-one coaching, all sorts of different modalities. But I wanted to create a container for myself. So I actually joined a 12-month program where I worked with a client. And I thought, as I got on this discovery call, that I was going to buy a $2,000 course. And that's what I had in my head. And I had the page up on my website as I was on the phone to this person. And I was saying, I think this is the course. I just wanted to clarify a few things, etc. As I came off that call and I went through to my mum, who was sitting with Luna, she said, how did it go? And I said, it went really well. And she said, okay. But what does that mean? What are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to have to do the whole thing, the 12 months. And I don't know if I actually said the price to my mum because she might have been slightly horrified. But it was £9,000. That was how much I spent on this 12-month container. Now, I've got lots to say about the process itself, and that's not necessarily something that I'm going to put on the podcast in all of its glory. And because you might hear things and go, well, how do you justify that price? But at that moment in January 2020, I knew that was the leap that I needed to make. I knew that I needed to go all in for a year and say to myself, my family, the universe, and again, you might judge me going, what are you doing when you've got such a small baby? But I knew I needed that support and I couldn't ignore it anymore. And I kept playing with the ideas and I was thinking, what happens if I don't do this? What happens if I get to January 2021 and I still haven't done anything? And I'm watching other people and I'm going, I could do that, but why is it not happening for me? Now, I didn't necessarily realise that January 2020 was going to lead to a couple of weeks later, everything closing down. And I'd made this big old commitment of a price, a monthly outgoing. But you know what? I rose to the challenge. I did it. I paid that money every single month. And I showed up for those calls and I did what I needed to do. Obviously, all ethically and legally. But I stepped up to that challenge. I became that person who stepped up and said, I'm not going to get freaked out. I'm going to do what I need to do in that moment. And I guess that's the overall point I want to make with this, is sometimes on paper, it might not, your actions may not make sense to anybody else. In fact, other people might judge you. In fact, other people might give their opinion and say, this is what you should be doing or not doing. But you know when it's time to make that leap. You know when it's time to jump. You know when you want to put your hand up and go, do you know what? I think I'm ready. Like, this is the time. This is now my time where I go. I love that moment in the Olympics where people are in that long distance track and you can see them thinking about it, or as they're going round on the cycling and they have that moment. And I've seen athletes talk about it and talk over the actions that they make where they go, I'm going to go, I'm doing it. I think Jessica Ennis-Hill was talking about this, where she knew that she had to, there's a moment actually, I think it's in the 800 race, is it the 800 meters that she does, where about 3 or 4 quite Amazonian girls pass her, and there's a moment where she darts out on the outside and she runs, and oh my goodness, it's such an exciting moment. And you might be having that moment in your business right now where you are so sick and frustrated of your own chat, of your own stuff, and you're like, come on now, let's go. If that's you, of course, do get in touch, because I will have something that I can help you with and I would love to hear more. Let's book a free 15-minute strategy call. Let's do that. But in the meantime, thank you so much for listening. All the links are in the description box, of course. Thank you so much for being with me, and thank you for listening and letting me be so vulnerable as we go through this process. Lots of love. Bye.